Now we are actually moving on to Australia, and it's now my pleasure to introduce Jennifer Hughes. Jennifer is General Manager of Equine Welfare for Racing Victoria. Her role encompasses equine welfare before, during, and after a Thoroughbreds racing career. She is responsible for the development and implementation of the Equine Welfare Strategic Plan, Equine Welfare Policy, participant education in relation to equine welfare, welfare visits and assessments, and the delivery of equine welfare programs and initiatives that includes the off-the-track program, OTT. Previously, Jennifer managed the Intelligence and Compliance Unit at Racing Victoria, encompassing both the participant licensing function and management of the intelligence and case management system. She also spent a number of years at the British Horse Racing Authority after completing their graduate program. And at the BHA, she managed key participant welfare projects, including a 5-year strategy to deliver welfare objectives for both equine and human participants, a study into equine careers after racing, and the development of an ex-racehorse strategy with British Racing's official charity, Retraining of Racehorses. Jennifer, if I can invite you here to the stage. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Andrew. Aside from that introduction, I'm also Racing Australia's representative on the IFAR Steering Committee. And with that in mind, I thank you very much for taking the time to come here today and talk about this really important issue. I've been enthused by the speakers who've been before me today. It's really reassuring about the number of recurring themes. And I really enjoyed the honesty that everybody had. If we didn't acknowledge our shortfalls and the challenges, then we would have no way forward. Okay, so my presentation is titled Evolving Strategies in Australia. For context, I have this lovely map. Now forgive me, I prepared this before I realized the number of Australians that were going to be here, but I'm going to run with it anyway. So this map shows that there are 6 states and 2 territories in Australia. Racing Australia is the national body, and each state or territory has their own principal racing authority, or PRA. Therefore, the racing in each jurisdiction is governed under the Australian rules of racing, but also the local rules driven by the local PRA. In October 2019, the whole of racing was rocked in Australia by an expose-style television programme aired by the ABC. The programme was based in Queensland, but the impact was felt far and wide. I'm not going to dwell on the content of this programme, but the biggest issue to come out for racing in Australia was that we didn't have reliable answers to what happens to our horses post-racing. This said, although the programme caused huge reputational damage to the industry, it started a chain of events that has resulted in a number of positive outcomes for equine welfare. Today I'm going to talk about how this opportunity has been seized, the learnings, our thought processes, and where we have arrived at today. So, what have we learned? I've learned many things in the last 4 months, but in the interest of time, I've pulled out my top 3. Australia has been at the forefront of traceability, introducing the 30-day foal registration and recording the details of the first owners post-racing. However, poor compliance in relation to these rules left us exposed when the time came to call upon these numbers. Learning number 1, traceability rules are only as good as compliance to them. Secondly, Australia has a number of successful post-racing programs. But again, when the time came, we couldn't provide the answers for the numbers of horses that have been supported via those programs. Bringing me to my second learning, the post-racing programs have to be measured. Lastly, despite numerous post-racing programs across the various states, we still have gaps. The final lesson being, we need to understand, acknowledge, and address the gaps in our post-racing strategies. Each state across Australia is consistent in their objectives of their post-racing strategy, but they have a slightly different approach. Today, I'm going to focus on Racing Victoria's approach, because that's where I can provide most insight. Our post-racing strategy has two key objectives. One without the other means fighting a losing battle. We need to decrease the number of horses with limited or no options post-racing, while increasing the opportunities for horses post-racing. Simple? Yes and no. The issue can't just be addressed solely from a post-racing perspective. We touched on this in earlier speakers today. It has to be a multifaceted approach, and it has to start at the beginning. This table summarizes the high-level aims. For pre-racing, we want the number of horses bred to be as close to the number of horses going into training as possible. In other words, we want to decrease the number of horses that join the post-racing community before they've even embarked on a racing career. In Victoria, our initial investigation indicates that this number sits around 300 each year. During racing is another important focus. Our recent research confirms that the average age of retirement for racehorses in Australia is 5 years old, and a survey indicated that more than half of them retired due to a perceived lack of opportunity for them. Is there an opportunity to encourage and enable healthy horses to keep racing for longer? This is something we're trying to understand more. The second aim for during racing is to retire horses in the best possible condition for their second career, both physically and psychologically. This takes the strain off the post-racing programs. So as a result of these efforts at the front end of the industry, we can take our neat population of retiring thoroughbreds into the post-racing framework and give them the best possible chance of success. Here are our aims for the post-racing framework, and these dovetail nicely with IFAR's toolkit. First up, transition, giving horses the best opportunity for a successful first transition post-racing. If we don't do this right, then it compounds our issues further down the track. Demand, we've talked about this earlier today as well, for retired thoroughbreds in equestrian disciplines and also the non-competitive environments. We need people to want them. Longevity, for retired thoroughbreds in their new homes. We need them to stay in those new homes for longer. Traceability, again a strong theme today, for retired thoroughbreds to the best of our ability. The safety net for at-risk retired thoroughbreds. This is more likely to be required after the second, third, or fourth transition. However, when we do the transition, the demand, and the longevity well, this reduces the number of horses that will need the safety net. Humane end of life, acknowledging that this may be the best welfare outcome for some horses, but it must be done humanely. So fundamental to our post-rating framework is the acceptance that not all retiring racehorses are made equal. There's a fluid scale of retiring racehorses, from highly desirable to undesirable, and our programs need to be tailored with this in mind. Category A horses are the highly desirable ones. They fly off the shelves and need no incentive to transition into their second career. The market identifies these horses. Category B horses are physically and psychologically sound, but have a perceived low market value and return on investment. For example, they might be over 10 years old, have scarring from an old injury, or their only crime is that they're not very flash. Category C horses are physically unsound, but with short-term rehab or spelling, they can become Category A or B. Category D horses are paddock sound only and have low to no prospects of an equestrian career. And finally, we have the Category E horses that are physically and/or behaviourally unsound and with no prospects for a second career, putting them at risk of poor welfare outcomes in the future. Integral to categorising these horses from B to E is an upfront veterinary assessment followed by a behavioural assessment conducted by a retrainer. So with that in mind, this is what the post-racing framework looks like. At the top, we acknowledge that approximately a third of horses retiring from racing into the breeding industry. It's also important to note that one day they will also retire from breeding, and this is something we're discussing with breeders. You can see that we have our horse categories across second layer across there, supported by the veterinary assessment from B to E. The veterinary assessment is funded as part of this framework. At the bottom, we've got our off-the-track community, and this is the people who own retired racehorses. This is the most desirable place for our horses to end up, for both them and for us. You can see that from this map, that Category A horses go straight into the off-the-track community with minimal assistance. They might go via an acknowledged retrainer or any other retrainer or equestrian person. Our first priority program is the supported transition program, and that's helping the B and C category horses get the support they need to be transitioned into the off-the-track community. Here, eligible horses will have their retraining and/or rest and rehab funded to incentivize retrainers to take them on. Once these horses are into the off-the-track community, the focus turns to longevity. And this is not dissimilar to the work that ROR undertake in the UK. The OTT community are provided with education, a support network, clinics, and incentives from partner brands such as feed companies or saddleries. OTT owners are also eligible to compete in the off-the-track sponsored competition series. Essentially, we want to make this a desirable place for owners to be. We also touch at the bottom here on a digital platform, a digital marketplace for OTTs. This will help our retrainers sell their horses and also new owners find them. Unfortunately, Category D and E horses are not destined for the OTT community. Category D horses, if you remember, these are the paddock sounds only horses. These provide the biggest challenge for the framework. However, the numbers in this category shouldn't be large, and if it is, we need to refer back to our previous aims of retiring horses in the best possible condition for a second career. For those that do fall in this category, we need to get a bit creative. Can we generate demand for these horses through equine-assisted therapy, sponsored lead classes, even trick training? In addition, Racing Victoria will be working with racing owners to promote owner-funded retirement at acknowledged retirement farms. We've also named the Full Circle program that was mentioned earlier from Harness Horses in Canada, where people can sign up as a so-called guardian of racehorses to be notified if the horse is found in need of a home. This may be their breeder, the previous owner, the trainer, or just someone who has had a successful win on the horse. They then have the opportunity to rehome the horse or to contribute to retirement. Category E horses are eligible for a funded on-farm euthanasia program, where this is the best welfare outcome for the horse. The overarching aim of this strategy is to move horses as far left to the diagram as possible, and that's where the pre- and the post-racing aims play a key role. We currently have limited understanding of the numbers of horses retiring and going via each of these pathways. Therefore, our approach is to target the known risks with priority programs whilst tracking the transition through these programs. The idea being that in 12 months' time, we will have a clearer idea about the programs that will be most effective in supporting our post-racing aims and identify any gaps. So this approach is reliant upon three things: the programs, which I've already spoken about, but also a network of providers to deliver the programs. Currently, Racing Victoria has got over 50 acknowledged retrainers, but the framework will see this expand to include acknowledged spelling farms, rehab centres, retirement farms, and rescue groups. The final piece of the puzzle is the post-racing platform. This technology is key to the ongoing success and sustainability of the framework. The platform allows the success of each program to be measured, but also enables incentive-driven traceability of thoroughbreds post-racing and will identify the horses who are not being captured by an existing program. With this approach, we are turning traceability on its head. Rather than attempting to mandate processes in a space that's set outside our jurisdiction, we're incentivizing people to be a part of the framework and in return tell us where their horse is. There will still be gaps, but when we find them, we'll figure out how to engage the missing horses. At the point of retirement, all horses will transition into the post-racing platform. From here, I like to describe this a bit like mobile phone towers, signals. Each time a horse enters one of the programs, the platform will ping. The top example shows a Category A horse that retired, was retrained, and then successfully entered the off-the-track community, competing in the off-the-track competition series for many happy years before retiring to an acknowledged retirement farm, before being humanely euthanized. Each stage of this journey is logged on the platform. The second example is a Category C horse that needed a little bit more help via the supported transition program, which gave them the time and the opportunity to achieve their post-racing potential. Again, each stage is logged. Of course, there'll be lesser success stories whereby the first time a horse pings is actually in the supported euthanasia program. But this is still information, and it will still help us understand the limitations of the framework. In 12 months' time, we will have a clearer understanding of the pathways horses take post-racing and how we can support them to best achieve the best possible outcome. For example, if 20% of the horses retiring don't pop up in one of these programs in 12 months, we can investigate why and how this can be improved. So, this is where we're at. The plan is not without its challenges, and we will continue to evolve. So I would welcome any thoughts, questions, or suggestions, either during the panel session or any time after. As you can see, we have dreamed big, and we've been able to do so due to the support of the Racing Victoria board and executive, who fully appreciate the risk that post-racing poses for the industry and the magnitude of the work that needs to be done. This is mirrored across the different PRAs and Racing Australia, and it really is an exciting time for post-racing in Australia. I also want to say that I fully appreciate that I stand here in a very privileged position, as the first challenges that many jurisdictions will face is convincing the industry that it's a priority and then allocating sufficient funding. While I wouldn't wish an ABC report on any of you, it has galvanised racing in Australia, and I hope that the positive repercussions can be felt further afield. Thank you very much for your time and attention today. I look forward to presenting to you in 12 months' time on what we have learned about post-racing pathways and what that means for our future strategy.
No, thank you again very much, Jennifer, for that presentation there, and again, reaction from the Australian industry to that expose.